The twin moons of the planet Zethar hung low in the sky, shining over the crowded streets of the lower city. The air was heavy with smoke from the metal factories, and a cold wind whispered through broken buildings. Life in the lower city was harsh. No one cared for the weak, and food was more valuable than gold. Lyra moved through the dark alleys quietly, her thin hands wrapped around a small bag of old coins. Her long gray hair was tied back, and her dark eyes scanned the area with sharp focus. At only 17, she had learned to survive in a place where most gave up. She had one reason to keep fighting: her little sister, Kess. Kess was small and fragile. She had stopped smiling weeks ago. Their parents had died long ago in one of the endless city raids. Since then, Lyra had taken care of Kess on her own. Every day, she searched the dirty streets for scraps of food. Every night, she wrapped her sister in the only blanket they had left. But lately, even the scraps had become rare. The rulers of Zethar had begun hoarding food for themselves. The lower city was slowly starving. Kess had grown weaker day by day. Her cheeks were hollow, her hands cold, her voice barely a whisper. "Lyra," Kess whispered that night, her voice soft like the wind. "I'm hungry." Lyra's heart tightened. She touched her sister's hand gently. "I know, I'll fix it," she said. She always said that. But this time, she wasn't sure if she could. That night, as the cold wind blew through the broken windows, Lyra stared at the ceiling of their small room and made a decision. She had heard stories, rumors whispered between the starving and the desperate. There was a human black market hidden beneath the old factory district. Humans would buy alien workers. Some said it was a terrible fate. Others said humans treated workers better than the Zetharians did. She didn't know which story was true, but she knew one thing: humans had food. Humans had power. The next morning, with Kess sleeping weakly under the blanket, Lyra slipped out. She walked through narrow paths, passing silent crowds of hungry faces. The city was built like a maze, tall buildings made of dull metal, shadows stretching across cracked roads. The deeper she walked, the fewer people there were. Soon only the sound of her steps remained. She finally reached an old sign painted with a fading symbol. Beneath it was a stairway leading underground. Lyra took a deep breath and descended. The air below was warm, filled with the smell of oil and metal. The tunnels were lit by orange lamps. At the end of the tunnel, a large door stood, guarded by two tall alien traders. They looked at her with cold eyes. "I want to make a deal," Lyra said, trying to sound brave. One of them laughed. "A deal? What can a starving girl like you offer?" Lyra lifted her chin. "Myself," the guard raised an eyebrow. "Yourself?" "Yes, sell me. Sell me to the fattest, ugliest human you can find," she said, her voice steady. The guards looked at each other in surprise. Many came here to beg for food, not to sell themselves. But desperate trades were common. One of the guards finally nodded and opened the door. Inside was a large room filled with traders from different species. The air was noisy with voices bargaining and shouting. Humans stood in small groups wearing clean clothes that made them look almost out of place in the dirty tunnels. They didn't look like monsters. Some looked curious, some looked bored. An alien merchant approached Lyra. He was short and round with shiny black eyes. "What's your age, girl?" he asked. 17, Lyra said. "Strong?" "Yes. Healthy." She hesitated. "Enough," the merchant smiled. "Good. Humans like strong workers. You may fetch a good price." She didn't care about the price. All she cared about was Kess. The merchant led her to a small stage where other aliens were being presented. Lyra looked at their faces. Some were scared. Some had given up. She stood tall, even though her legs were shaking. She wouldn't let anyone see her fear. One by one, humans walked past, inspecting the aliens. Lyra's heart raced as a group of humans stopped in front of her. One of them was large, wearing a heavy coat and a hat. He had a round face and small, sharp eyes. The merchant leaned in and whispered, "That one pays well." The large human studied her for a moment. "What can she do?" he asked. "She's strong, young, smart," the merchant said quickly. The human crossed his arms. "And why should I buy her?" Lyra spoke before the merchant could answer. "Because I will work. I will not cause trouble. I will do anything to survive. Just give the food to my sister." The human raised an eyebrow. "Your sister?" "Yes, she's sick. She needs food," Lyra said, trying to keep her voice steady. The human was silent for a moment. Then he gave a slow nod. "Interesting," he said. The merchant's eyes lit up. So we have a deal? The human handed over a small metal card. The merchant scanned it and smiled. Deal. Lyra felt a cold band lock around her wrist, a tracker. It was the mark of ownership. She was no longer free, but she didn't feel fear. She felt something else, relief. Because she had saved Kess, the merchant promised to send food to her old address. Whether he would actually do it or not, she didn't know. But it was her only chance. As the human led her out of the market, Lyra looked back one last time at the tunnels of her old life. She thought of Kess's soft voice and tired eyes. She whispered to herself, "I will come back for you." The journey to the human ship was quiet. The human didn't talk much. He walked with heavy steps like someone who had seen too many wars. When they reached the shipyard, Lyra saw something she had only imagined before. A real human starship. It was huge, its silver surface shining under the weak sun of Zethar. Ships like this were symbols of power. Humans traveled the stars with freedom, something Lyra could barely understand. As they entered the ship, everything felt different. The air smelled clean. The walls were bright. She had never seen anything like it. The human finally spoke. "My name is John Blackstone," he said. His voice was calm but strong. Lyra nodded. "Lyra?" she replied softly. "You're not a slave to me," John said. "I bought you because I need someone who knows this planet. I don't want to hurt you, but I need to know if I can trust you." She blinked, surprised. "Trust me?" "Yes, I know why you came to the market." "I heard about your sister." He paused. "We'll make a deal. You help me and I'll help you. You'll see your sister again." Lyra stared at him. She had expected cruelty, not kindness. But she had also learned that trusting anyone could be dangerous. "What do you want from me?" she asked. John looked out the window at the dark city below. "I want to end what's happening here. I want to stop the ones who keep everyone hungry, and you're going to help me do it." Lyra didn't know what to say. She was just a girl from the lower city. How could she help stop anything? But then she thought of Kess. If this man could really change things, maybe her sister would never have to starve again. She looked at him and nodded slowly. "I'll help you." John gave a small smile. "Good. Then we begin tomorrow." That night, for the first time in a long time, Lyra slept in a warm bed. She stared at the ceiling, unable to believe how fast everything had changed. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But she knew one thing clearly. She was no longer just fighting to survive. She was part of something bigger now. Somewhere out there, Kess was waiting. And Lyra would not stop until they were together again. Morning on the starship was quiet. Lyra woke up slowly, still not used to the soft bed and clean air. For years, she had slept on cold floors with the sound of machines outside her window. Here, everything was different. The walls were white. The air smelled fresh. She felt safe, but also unsure. She sat up and looked at the small window near her bed. Outside, she could see the red sky of Zethar. The planet looked calm from here, but she knew the truth. Below that surface, people were still starving. Kess was still waiting. The door opened and Captain John Blackstone stepped in. He carried a tray with warm food. Lyra's eyes widened when she saw it. Real food. Fresh bread, fruit, and a cup of hot drink. "Eat," John said simply. Lyra picked up the bread carefully, like she was afraid it would disappear. She took a small bite, then another, then another. Warmth spread through her body. "She hadn't eaten like this in years. Better?" John asked. She nodded. "Yes, thank you." He sat on the chair near the bed. His large hands rested on his knees. "Today we start," he said. "Start what?" she asked. "Something big," John replied. "I'm not here just to buy workers. I came to Zethar for a reason. This planet is dying because a few people keep everything for themselves. I want to end that. But I need someone who knows the streets. Someone who can move without being seen." Lyra looked down. "Me? Yes, you know this place better than I ever could," John said. "You know where they keep the food. You know who controls the city. I have the tools, but I need your eyes and ears." Lyra hesitated. She was just a girl from the lower city. She wasn't a fighter. But then she remembered Kess lying weak under the old blanket. She lifted her chin. "I'll help," she said. A small smile touched John's face. "Good, then listen carefully." John showed her a map of Zethar's capital. He pointed to a large building near the center. "This is the supply tower. It holds all the food. The rulers decide who eats and who doesn't. If we take control of this place, we can feed the lower city. But it's impossible, Lyra whispered. That place is guarded day and night. No one gets near it. Almost no one, John said calmly. But humans have a way of turning impossible into possible. I have a small crew. If you can guide us through the underground tunnels, we can get in. We don't need to fight. We just need to make their control fall apart. Lyra stared at the map. She remembered the tunnels well. She and Kes used to hide there when soldiers came. The tunnels were dangerous but real. I know a way, she said softly. An old water line. It leads near the tower. Then that's our path, John said. Later that day, Lyra met John's crew. There were 4 of them, all humans. They were different from the stories she had heard as a child. She had been told humans were greedy and cruel, but these people were smiling, calm, and focused. There was Aiden, a tall man with bright eyes who carried tools instead of weapons. There was May, a woman with quick hands who could open any lock. There was Theo, who spoke little but had a kind smile. And finally, there was Captain John Blackstone, the man everyone seemed to trust. We don't hurt people, John told her. We break systems. We give power back to those who need it. That's what we do. Lyra listened closely. For the first time, she felt like someone saw her as more than a poor girl. She was part of something bigger. That night, the crew prepared for their mission. They moved quietly through the lower city, dressed in plain clothes. Lyra led the way, her heart beating fast as they entered the dark tunnels. The tunnels smelled of damp metal. Water dripped from the ceiling. She walked with steady steps, remembering every turn and corner. Are you sure about this? May whispered. Yes, Lyra said. This way. After an hour, they reached a metal gate. On the other side was the supply tower's basement. Aiden knelt down and placed a small round device on the lock. It made a soft click and the gate opened. They moved inside. The basement was quiet. Rows of machines lined the walls. Above them, guards walked, unaware of the small group below. John leaned closer to Lyra. Do you see that panel? He whispered, pointing to a glowing control board. If we connect my device to that, we can take control of their food distribution. No more locked gates. No more hunger. Lyra nodded. May moved quickly and opened the panel. Aiden connected John's device. The screen flickered. Then the lights changed from red to green. It's working, Aiden whispered. Suddenly an alarm blared softly. Theo looked at John. They know someone's here. John didn't panic. We're almost done. Stay calm. Lyra's hands were shaking. She had never been this close to danger before. Footsteps echoed above them. Voices shouted orders. Then, just as suddenly as it started, the alarm stopped. John looked at the screen. We did it, he said quietly. Lyra blinked. We did? Yes, the food gates are open. Every storage in the city just unlocked, John said. People can take what they need. Outside, far away, people in the lower city were starting to notice. For the first time in years, food wasn't locked away behind fences and soldiers. Word spread quickly. A spark had been lit, but their work wasn't over. A loud voice echoed through the building. Who's down there? Lyra froze. Guards were coming. This way, John said. They moved through the tunnels fast. But Lyra heard something that made her stop. Lyra? She turned. It was Kes, thin, weak, but alive. She was being held by 2 guards at the end of the hall. Lyra's heart nearly stopped. They must have found her at the old house. John saw her panic. Go, he said. Lyra ran toward her sister. The guards shouted, but before they could react, May and Theo distracted them with quick, clever tricks. Aiden created a flash of bright light and the guards covered their eyes. Lyra grabbed Kes's hand. I'm here, she whispered. Kes looked at her with wide eyes. I thought, you were gone, she said weakly. I told you I'd come back, Lyra replied. They ran back to the tunnels together. Behind them, John and his crew followed. The alarms were loud now, but the city above was louder. People were taking food, shouting, crying with joy. The Zetharian rulers had lost control. By the time they reached the ship, the city was in chaos, but not the bad kind. It was the chaos of people finally free to feed their families. Lyra helped Kes onto the starship. Kes held a piece of bread with shaking hands, tears in her eyes. Lyra, we have food, Kes whispered. Lyra hugged her tightly. For the first time, she believed things could change. John stepped onto the deck and looked back at the red sky. We did it, May said, smiling. No, John said. They did it. He nodded toward the city where crowds were flooding the streets. We just gave them a chance. Lyra stood beside him. I didn't think humans were like this, she admitted. John looked at her. A lot of people don't. But humanity is more than what they hear in stories. We fight for each other. We help where we can, and we never give up. She looked at him carefully. He didn't speak like a ruler. He spoke like someone who believed in something bigger. What will happen now? She asked. Zethar will change, John said. Slowly. People will remember this day. And so will you. Lyra felt something warm inside her chest. She wasn't just a starving girl anymore. She was part of the story. The next morning, the sun rose over a different Zethar. The supply tower was no longer in the hands of the rulers. People were sharing food in the streets. Children were laughing again. The lower city was alive. John's ship remained hidden at the edge of the city. He and his crew watched as everything unfolded. Lyra stood at the window holding Kess's hand. What will you do now? John asked her. Lyra thought for a moment. I want to stay. I want to help rebuild, she said. John nodded. That's brave. And if you ever need us, humanity is out there. Kess smiled weakly, her cheeks no longer hollow. Thank you, she whispered. John gave a small nod and turned to his crew. Let's move. We have other places to help. As the ship lifted into the sky, Lyra and Kess watched it disappear into the clouds. For the first time in years, they felt hope. Lyra looked down at the city. People were working together. No rulers, no locked gates. Just neighbors helping neighbors, she whispered softly. Thank you, humans.